Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Creative Outlet Podcast for July 5th, 2021. As you know, my name is Brandon Pudwill. I'm your host, and woo! We made it to episode 10. We're officially out of single-digit land, which, man, isn't that wild? This number of episodes was my goal for year one, but it's never. Wow, it's better late than never. I apparently cannot say common phrases that people use all of the time. As I said, today is July 5th, 2021. You should have just seen an episode come out on this very same day. And before we get started, I just want to share kind of keeping on that schedule. So far I'm keeping on schedule, at least for sure with these episodes. And I just want to state that there will not be a new episode recorded in 2 weeks. That is July 19th, 2021, as I will be celebrating not my birthday, but a birthday that day. So I will be out and unavailable to record. This will be releasing that day, but there just won't be an episode coming 2 weeks after that on August 2nd, 2021. But there should still be one after that, fortunately, right before we get to the fall semester already. I guess that's the one thing about doing these every 2 weeks is that they take time to come out, and that means obviously there's not a ton of time until the fall semester that begins. On the plus side, though, that does give me some more time to edit up the fall episodes, as I'm currently behind on that. I still only have one completed. Second one is in progress, and it really shouldn't be that hard to do, I would imagine. But fortunately, the couple that are recorded so far should be pretty easier ones to edit. The three that I have, hopefully this week, going to end up with number 4 of 7 done, and then hopefully the last 3 after that. We'll have to see. As far as other typical intro-y things I talk about, I love to do my production updates. So if you remember last time I talked about this podcast class I took for school, and I talked about all of the various tools of the trade that I learned about. And I tell you, I learned about another tool in Audacity that I wasn't taught about in class, because this new version of Audacity that I'm using answered my wishes from last time, my wishes for, if only I could have easier normalization, because normalization is a real pain, because you have to go and comb through every single little bit of audio to try to get the peaks to be at the right level. But fortunately, I learned about this new feature called loudness normalization, which is like regular normalization, but instead of using decibels, it uses this unit called LUFS, and it's basically just an acronym for what we would call loudness units. I don't know the exact term, but the simple way of describing it is the way that normal normalization works with the peaks is that Audacity tries to adjust the volume based on decibels. So whatever is the highest decibel, it's going to, the whole audio clip that you highlight is going to be limited to whatever the highest peak is out of the whole area. It'll reach a certain level of decibels. But the way that LUFS works is, instead of adjusting it that way, it's more precise to make all of the audio sound similarly loud. So I talked about last time how I actually talk pretty quietly on here, despite the fact that I feel like I'm actually projecting pretty well, but I digress. So what it does is it adjusts to these LUF units to make my voice sounds similarly loud, no matter how quietly I'm actually talking. You see what I'm saying? So a sound that on the microphone registers as negative 21 decibels, or at least that's what it shows, could sound the same as if I had normalizationed it up to -4 decibels. And it'll just sound a similar loudness throughout, and that way you folks don't have to be messing around with the volume knob throughout listening to me. So, I mean, yeah, as far as the science is concerned, I'm probably pretty well butchering that description. I'm sure there are audiophiles listening to this just bashing their head against the wall at how little information I really and truly have, but I can only tell you based on what I know. And really, those are the basics that you need to know. Is that the point is I should sound similarly loud throughout, and I already applied that in episode 9, and I should be able to continue here in episode 10, our first double-digit episode, which will give our audio listeners a better experience. I could even see myself with the audio episodes remastering episodes 1 through 8 with this, especially because I'd want to apply the musical intro and outro to those, as I just started doing up again with, I think I did it in episode 8, but I for sure did it in episode 9. But I have not decided yet. If I go ahead and do the music, then you can probably assume that Luff's was applied to the episode as well. I can't really do that for the video podcast because I would have to run the audio separately through Audacity and then re-import the audio and hope that it all just lines up properly. And I have not gone through and seen how easily, conveniently would that work. Although I'm sure if I tried hard enough, I could figure it out. But it would probably take some time. As far as distribution, I have some distribution updates, and though I cannot see it on Anchor.fm for whatever reason, I have found out that the Creative Outlet podcast is available on other platforms as well, if you prefer them. Platforms that I haven't already originally had them on audio-wise. You can now find the Creative Outlet podcast on CastBox, TuneIn Radio, and the most important addition to the COP repertoire, at least now as far as I'm aware of it. I'm sure there are folks who could have well already been aware of it. The Creative Outlet podcast is now also available on Apple Podcasts, which is the largest podcast platform on the planet, is what I want to say. So I just want to welcome in my iOS listeners, even though I am admittedly an Android fellow here. I also want to establish some corrections from episode 9. So that was our primarily E3 special that focused almost entirely on announcements from the Electronics Entertainment Expo 2021. One of the games I talked about is one that I'm interested in is Riders Republic, which is only available on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox One, and PC. So that makes it pretty hard to play it as somebody who probably does not own a sufficient PC for it and doesn't have access to an Xbox One all the time. So we'll see if I end up playing it. Again, I honestly, because I spent so much time just editing episode 9, leading all the way up to even this morning for the upload, I have not done much more research into it other than looking up the image that I used in the video, so can't say I know much more about it. So who knows? It could very well be a game that I'm not interested in, but from what little I saw, it actually seemed pretty interesting. Similarly, I also want to establish that Back 4 Blood was one of the games I talked about in the Xbox and Bethesda showcase. I believe I said it was announced in that episode at E3, but it was actually announced at the 2020 Game Awards. So it's been around the block a little longer than I made it sound. I think there are a couple of other things I wanted to correct, but I can't remember what they were. If I give episode 9 another listen through, or if folks point them out, I'm very happy to correct them, but I am blanking on the other things at the moment. We will get into our full topic discussion here soon, but I actually wanted to give a brief short story. That's something I haven't done in an intro in a while, is just talk about, hey, here's like a short story that I don't think I could get a full topic out about, but let's just talk about it in the intro. So if you've been on the internet in the last few weeks, you probably saw this Game Boy Advance post on Twitter and Nintendo's YouTube channel. And essentially what they posted was, hey, the Game Boy Advance is 20 years old, and here's a celebratory image of it. And it was just an image of a Game Boy Advance playing Super Mario Advance, just to celebrate that, again, GBA is 20 years old, which is nuts to me, but we can talk about that separately a different time. And the whole big brouhaha theory that came out from this image, to me, was a story that is a prime example for why I choose not to post or like why to report on leaks and rumors and theories and all that business. Because like I talked about last time when I was talking about how the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, a game that I'm very much excited for later this month, was leaked in November of 2020, I had no idea if that actually was going to happen. Obviously, that one ended up being real, and I'm very happy that it's real. But at the time, I had no idea if it really and truly would become a real game. And that's a similar situation that happened here. So not too long before the E3 presentation, Nintendo made these posts. And fans took to ridiculous levels of speculation and found out that, well, if you rearrange the numbers in the score in Super Mario Advance, you can manipulate them to create June 23rd, 2021. And Mario has 96 lives. So, if you switch out 2021 for 1996, what do you get? Launch date of the Nintendo 64 in Japan. That means clearly this is a soft announcement for Nintendo 64 games coming to Switch Online. Because June 23rd, 2021 would be exactly 25 years to the day after the N64 launched in Japan. So, it's going to happen. Boom. And then it never happened because the screenshot was not a ploy to soft announce N64 games coming to Switch Online. Because, as it turns out, the Super Mario Advance screenshot that Nintendo posted, or that they just photoshopped into this GBA, actually dates back to a British Game Boy focused magazine, where they had the exact same screenshot for Super Mario Advance there, meaning that the screenshot meant nothing. I'm sorry, that just stuck out to me as an infuriating case where, man, folks, you gotta curb your hype and not get into complete wild speculation land, because sometimes you're going to make yourself look like a fool when you notice things like that, and I do not want any part of that. I'm proud of the person who came up with this theory, noticing all of these details and trying to piece all of this together, but sometimes you just gotta look at something at face value and realize that it just is what it is. Nintendo's just celebrating that the Game Boy Advance is 20 years old, and that's all they're doing. So, with that out of the way, this is probably one of the shortest intros I've had in a while, or at least it feels pretty short, even if it isn't necessarily that much shorter. So we're just going to go into our topic rundown. Like I said last time, today we're going to have a more traditional 4-topic episode. So we're going to be having, of course, my obligatory Smash character discussion now that another one has been revealed, and of course released before I could do coverage of it, and I only have one more chance to try to do this on time, so if anything, expect a Creative Outlet bonus during the semester covering it instead of a regular full-on episode, because I already have my Creative Outlet birthday gaming extravaganza fall episodes already planned. We're going to have a discussion of Kazuya Mishima from Tekken entering Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. We're going to have a discussion on a topic that I've teased for a while, on what should the Wii U legacy be now that we're a few years out and we keep seeing all of these Wii U to Nintendo Switch game ports, particularly from Nintendo. I'm going to have a broader, more real world story here that just caught my eye as really interesting, and I actually think, even though you could describe it as political, I think it's actually very apolitical, and kind of gets into the title of why this is destroying a legacy. We're going to talk about how Amazon UK is apparently destroying goods at their warehouses. And finally, we are going to close off this episode with my first impressions of Mario Golf Super Rush now that I have had it for about 10 days. So, without further ado, I suppose we should get into our very first topic here. So, just to open my Kazuya discussion here, I want to give my obligatory reminder that I do not structure episode releases around Smash character reveals, even though it totally seems like I do, because I just always happen to be like, hey, I have time to do an episode. And hey, another Smash character is revealed, although that didn't really work out for Steve or Sephiroth. I just want to point that out. I had to cover them later on, so, I'm just saying. That's pretty good evidence that I don't do that. As always, we're going to talk about things with Kazuya, like why is he a significant addition to Smash? We're going to talk about his moveset, but in a less traditional way than I've done it before, although I'm going to try to go into a pretty good level of detail. We're going to talk about his alternate costumes, any amiibo that were announced, and of course, the Mii fighter costumes. Did I even mention the stage? We're going to talk about the stage, too. So, Kazuya Mishima, he is our representative from Namco's Tekken series, which is just, the Japanese title is two words, Tek and Ken, Iron Fist, which of course explains why the game is all about the King of the Iron Fist tournament that Kazuya and his family all compete in, as well as all these other amazing fighters, including a bear and a panda, which is pretty neat. So I don't really want to get into the whole story of Tekken. I think you can find other videos if you really want to hear what it's all about. But I mean, Kazuya himself is a pretty important character, considering he's part of the Mishima bloodline, and a whole big plot in the series is about Heihachi Mishima and Kazuya fighting, and Kazuya having the devil gene from his mom Kazumi, and how essentially Kazuya is evil and has this devilish form, and him and Heihachi keep going in this big feud to try to have control of the Mishima Zaibatsu, and it's a whole big giant soap opera-y sort of story, but it's perfectly dumb and campy for a fighting game. And you could even see references to that story in Kazuya's trailer, which I'm surprised I didn't actually do much writing about here now that I think about it. The trailer itself was pretty good. It was mostly CG, but of course it showed off gameplay, as every Smash trailer does, with it starting off with Kazuya carrying Ganondorf and throwing him off of a cliff, which, if you don't know anything about Tekken, that probably seemed a little weird. But one of the main plot points in the original Tekken is when Kazuya was a kid, Heihachi just threw him off a cliff. Now, it's revealed later in Tekken 7 on the PS4, I believe it's on the Xbox One as well as PC, that the reason that Heihachi did that is specifically because, Kazumi had the devil gene, and Heihachi wanted to make sure, oh my goodness, does my son have this devil gene? So he throws him off the cliff, and the idea is that if he climbs back up, oh yeah, he has the devil gene. And this is going to become a whole giant problem. Lo and behold, it becomes a huge giant problem. Thus, we get the whole entire plot of Tekken. And so we just see in Tekken 2, or no, actually at the end of Kazuya's arcade mode in Tekken, because of course, Kazuya is pretty salty about his father tossing him off of a cliff. We see Kazuya do the same thing to Heihachi at the end of his arcade mode. He tosses him off of a cliff. And then that becomes kind of a recurring thing. In Tekken 2, since Kazuya isn't, for sure he's not playable at the start, and instead Heihachi is, when you beat Heihachi's arcade mode and beat Kazuya, who's taken over the Mishima Zaibatsu. Heihachi throws Kazuya into a volcano. He ups the ante there. What a great dad. And of course, we find then in Tekken 4, because we skip over Kazuya in Tekken 3, because we can assume that he's dead. No, he's actually alive. Of course he's alive. And then we just kind of see this play out again in Tekken 7, where Kazuya once more then throws Heihachi into a volcano. So, in the trailer, Kazuya does that sort of thing to a bunch of Smash fighters. Ganondorf, Pit, Min Min is one of them. Oh, there's a couple more that I'm just blanking on, but I really should remember. But the point is, he tosses 5 characters off of a cliff when you see him become more devilish in the process because he's evil. So that's the trailer. Of course, the actual presentation itself was pretty good. There weren't a ton of Sakurai-isms in it. They were back in the studio, which of course was kind of sad for me as someone who has, even though it's not obviously for a good reason, I've enjoyed seeing Sakurai's home. The only Sakurai-ism was toward the start of the presentation when he was talking about, like, there was someone from the heavens wanting me to get Tekken into Smash, and like, Masahiro, get Tekken into Smash Brothers. That's sort of his little flair for the dramatic. And of course, if you don't understand the reference to what he means when he's like, someone from the heavens, that actually comes from Nintendo's name, because part of the name, I don't remember if it's the Nin, the Ten, or the Do. I want to say it's the Ten, actually. In Japanese means heaven. Like, the whole name is supposed to mean something along the lines of leave luck to the heavens, which is appropriate considering they were a playing card company at the time when they were founded. And of course, what do you do in a lot of card games? You just kind of leave luck up to, well, the heavens. So the name works out. And so the little joke makes a little more sense now, I hope, if you didn't get it before. But bringing Kazuya in could be seen as significant for a handful of reasons. Not just because, of course, it's another Smash character and it's another third-party character. You could look at Kazuya's addition as continuing to bring the PlayStation into Smash, seeing as the Tekken series has historically been a series that's primarily associated with the PlayStation. And of course, that's because the hardware that the original Tekken was built on was very similar, actually, to the PlayStation hardware. So, of course, you also have, other primarily, I would say, Sony-associated characters in Smash Brothers already, in Snake, Cloud, and of course, Sephiroth to go with him. And you could I would imagine, like, if the last character ends up being like Crash or Spyro, that just kind of completes the PlayStation sort of loop there, in that it's like, okay, even though obviously Sakurai can't really just say, yeah, I'm trying to get a full breadth of the gaming Hall of Fame in Smash, and I want to get, obviously it's primarily Nintendo, since they're funding the game, I want to get some PlayStation guys in here too. That's kind of symbolically what you could argue he's doing in bringing Kazuya, since you have Metal Gear Solid, a Konami franchise that's primarily associated with the Sony PlayStation and Smash. You have Tekken, a Namco franchise that's primarily associated with the Sony PlayStation and Smash. And then you have Cloud and Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII, which, while Final Fantasy, I would argue nowadays it's more associated with the PlayStation. It did start on the NES, and it certainly had many Nintendo games in the past. Final Fantasy VII in particular is pretty widely considered the quintessential PlayStation game. So, but if you don't want to look at it quite that, artistically, symbolically, you could just look at it simply as adding Kazuya, continuing to complete the fighting game loop Sakurai seems to have started with Ryu. Because now you have Ryu and Ken from Street Fighter as like the original, we're the fighting game characters in Smash Brothers characters. And then you had Terry added, now at this point, almost 2 years ago, representing the King of Fighters / Fatal Fury. He's listed as Fatal Fury, but I think more people probably associate him with King of Fighters, and now you have Kazuya from Tekken. So all you need now to really close that loop is to add at least one character from a Western fighting game. You could go Killer Instinct, you could go Mortal Kombat. Those are really the only two major Western fighting games that I can think of, unfortunately, that aren't like a DC fighting game, like Injustice, that I think NetherRealm, who makes Mortal Kombat nowadays, also made. And I mean, you could just look at Kazuya being added as just adding to Namco's representation if you're looking for some significance to him as a character, since now Namco is not just alone with Pac-Man. Now it seems like, I think probably not every, but a lot of the third-party companies that have characters in Smash now have two representatives. Sega had Sonic, and they own Atlas, even though Atlas gets separate billing for Joker from Persona 5. There's, of course, for Capcom, you had Mega Man, and then Ryu and Ken. I guess technically they have 3. You could even consider Bayonetta actually a third Sega rep, since Bayonetta was originally published by Sega. And, Konami had Snake, and then they had Simon and Richter from Castlevania added. And now in this case, you're just kind of closing that Namco loop, and now they have Pac-Man and Kazuya. And you could even bring Microsoft into this too, now that there's Banjo and Kazooie, as well as Steve from Minecraft, since both Rare and Mojang are owned by Microsoft. So I think there's a lot of ways you could look at Kazuya as a significant character, but I know that's not something that matters to everyone. People just want more Smash characters, and you know what? I am mostly with them, but I can't say that it isn't fun to speculate about, like, I want to read in the tea leaves and see, like, why could we consider this character an important enough character to be in Smash Brothers? But let's move on to some more concrete information. Like I always talk about the moveset. But this time I'm going to elect to just skip all of the regular moves because Kazuya's moveset is too complicated for my tiny non-fighting game player brain to comprehend. So I remember seeing an article come out from Event Hubs that just basically had an image of, hey, here's how you pull off all of Kazuya's moves, which Sakurai covered how to pull off all of Kazuya's moves, and there's so many, like, you have to hold the stick in a particular direction and hit, like, A twice, and then you want to do it a third time, but slightly later than the second one, for example, and that's just, I can't remember all of that, and, I've been playing Kazuya since he was just released the day after Sakurai's presentation, last week, June 28th, and for the most part for me, I just kind of feel like I pull off Kazuya's moves randomly unless I'm trying to do a special or a grab, because there's just so many regular attacks that I just, again, I'm not used to playing fighting games. I have a tiny fighting game brain because I have not really played them, so it's hard for me to remember how to do them all correctly or just pull them off because of how the regular schmegular Pro Controller or Joy-Con control sticks are on the Switch. But, there is some news coming up. The CPU seems to be pretty overpowered, at least for sure when they're playing at level 9 as Kazuya, and that's probably because the CPU, because they don't have human brain, they know how to effectively use all the moves, and also I guess they don't have to really worry about the control stick at all, unlike us. So if level 9 Kazuya CPUs are giving even pro Smash players trouble, I can only imagine what the level 50 Kazuya amiibo figure could end up doing to players. Though if I know there's one thing about Kazuya's regular moveset that sticks out to me, it's kind of like how, like Steve, Kazuya has these super short regular jumps. He can't even, again, just like how Steve's single jump can't reach the lowest platforms on Battlefield, Kazuya's can't do that either. At least for sure, his first jump is super short. It seems his double jump and his up special give him a lot more vertical movement. And speaking of specials, I guess we could move into those for his moveset. So one of the things that Sakurai pointed out in his presentation is that all of Kazuya's specials transform Kazuya temporarily into devil form. And he has 4 moves: the Devil Blaster, the Devil Fist, the Devil Wings, and then the only one that is not listed with the word devil in it, Heaven's Door. So the Devil Blaster is Kazuya's neutral special, and he essentially just kind of shoots a beam of light in front of him, and it can pass through multiple opponents. But as it passes through, like the first fighter will be damaged 15%, and the second one will be 12%, and the third one it'll just keep decreasing until the beam eventually runs out. You can also angle this shot, so if you have somebody in the air, you could shoot the beam upward, or if you have somebody who's climbing up a ledge, you can shoot it downward toward them instead. And like many projectiles, the Devil Blaster is subject to a lot of the other moves, like Villager can pocket it, it can be reflected by Fox, all sorts of things like that. The Devil Fist is a bit interesting in that I'm trying to think of a move it's similar to. I want to say it's kind of like Wolf's side special. Devil Fist is Kazuya's side special. Kazuya just kind of charges forward in whichever direction he's facing, left or right, toward the opponents. And when you use the attack on the ground, the attack actually electrocutes and stuns the opponents for a bit, kind of like Ryu and Ken's down special does, assuming that the opponent isn't shielding. But when it's used in the air, the opponents will just kind of get knocked around. They won't get stunned or anything. So it's actually, I've found to be kind of a powerful move too. Like, not extremely powerful, but it does pack a little bit of a punch. And then the Devil Wings is up special. It's just kind of I've found it to be a pretty standard recovery move. You know, the wings help Kazuya rocket into the air, and he could just move left and right. And of course, that's very helpful considering his jump is pretty not that great. But apparently, you can use it against opponents on the ground too, in a similar way to like Luigi's super jump punch can be used. I don't think it quite. I don't know if it has the same mechanic that Luigi's super jump punch has, that there's a chance it'll go and just instantly KO an opponent. And then Heaven's Door is Kazuya's down special. And the way that it works is he essentially just kind of goes, he tries to like, it looks like a punch, but I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a grab. But it works kind of like Bowser's side special in that Kazuya grabs them and then goes boom down to the ground with the opponent. And again, like Bowser's side special, you can use that move actually to, well, try to do a sort of like a kamikaze sort of KO, because a lot of times that you'll see people do with Bowser is he'll grab them, and since Bowser has the opponent underneath as like a body slam, he will throw the opponent off of the edge with them. But of course, the opponent will KO first since they're under Bowser, and thus Bowser can win the match. Whereas for Kazuya is actually lower, so he reaches the blast zone before the opponent, which gives them a chance to escape and recover back to the stage. It's kind of a high-risk move, and of course, like with Bowser's side special, your opponent can also try to escape it as well. But that covers the specials. As far as the grabs, I think they all have something special. They probably all have some kind of a special name. But really all I care about in discussing is that, hey, they all actually come with a special camera angle. So our most grabs just, throw forward, throw backward, up, down, etc., etc. For Kazuya, the camera will actually zoom into a particular special angle, and then you'll see him perform the throw in whichever direction he's choosing to throw. And then the match will just continue as normal. So I just find that pretty interesting. I haven't really tested that out in 3 to 8 player Smash. I know for sure the camera does that in 2 player Smash. I would assume it does the same in 3 to 8 player Smash. But I'm not entirely sure how that would be pulled off, as far as would the whole match zoom in on Kazuya for a moment, or did they just save that until there are only Kazuya and one other fighter left? I'm not sure. I have not seen that. Another unique mechanic that Kazuya comes with is Rage. So there's actually already a Rage mechanic in Smash, but all that really does is that's when you see the characters kind of smoking and glowing red, and it just increases their damage because they're upset that it's like, I'm almost gonna die because I'm over 100%. But in this case, Kazuya enters that same rage state when over 100%, but his name also flashes, and his attacks deal 10% more damage, which that actually already is a mechanic in the Tekken games when a character is almost down. But Kazuya also gets the Rage Drive move, which can be pulled off a few different ways, just with a grab, with trying to use Heaven's Door, the down special, or doing like the quarter circle forward motion that you use for Ryu's Hadouken. And so, but instead of performing Heaven's Door, he performs a Rage Dive, which just functions the same, but it's significantly more powerful and has a much greater chance of KOing an opponent, of course, than a regular Heaven's Door move would. Though, of course, if Kazuya can't connect with his Rage Dive, his rage just ends up getting squandered, and he goes back to standard damage and doesn't have access to his Rage Dive until he loses a stock to try to use it again after he gets over 100%. So that covers Rage. There's his Final Smash. His Final Smash is the Final Blaster, which of course is related to his regular schmegular Devil Blaster. He just kind of shoots a beam in front of him, and like with many other Final Smashes, that beam has to connect, otherwise the attack will not continue. And after that, he just kind of shoots like a giant barrage of different lasers that can capture opponents in them and will knock them back a pretty far amount. And there's the cutscene of him starting the final, the extra lasers, and he says something that I think translates to, "This will be your burial ground," something like that. So as far as other little details from the presentation I want to cover, I think the alternate costumes are actually pretty interesting for Kazuya. All of the odd number alts are his just plain fighter pants in different colors. Some of them have references to different Tekken characters. I don't know Tekken well enough to state exactly like, alternate number 5 is a reference to this particular Tekken character. I don't know. Whereas the even number costumes are all suits, which is referenced him at times leading the Mishima Zaibatsu and leading like other corporations and like guerrilla armies and stuff. Tekken's a weird story, but the point is he gets to wear a suit sometimes, and all the different colors are references to particular things. I particularly love number 8, the golden suit, which I kind of made a reference there to a certain movie, but I'm not going to quite go all the way with that because I don't need any copyright issues on any episode if I can. The stage that Kazuya came with is the Mishima dojo, not the Zaibatsu. It is the dojo. And I have to admit, this might be the first DLC Smash stage that I'm kind of disappointed by, actually. Because I feel like Sakurai was essentially going for a King of Fighters Stadium scenario again. Because the way that the Mishima dojo works, so it's all a flat stage, and you have Heihachi in the background reacting like things that are happening, of course, kind of like how all these characters do in the King of Fighters Stadium. And the walls on the dojo can break down, and of course that will force characters outside to try to have to recover. And of course, if they can't get over the wall, if only the top half is gone, then they're gonna have troubles getting back on stage. But I've kind of found that doesn't really do anything all that special in my experience. Maybe I will feel differently the more that I play the stage, but just so far, essentially being flat and the walls not really being all that special compared to what you saw in the King of Fighters Stadium. the Mishima Dojo may genuinely be the first disappointing DLC Smash stage for me. And yeah, I mean, eventually there had to be a stinker. It's just kind of upsetting that it's the second to last one, that we just couldn't get all 11 Fighters Pass characters with pretty good stages. Then again, I can't say I love all the stages. Gareg Mach Monastery isn't all that amazing, and neither are the Clouds of Allrest. But I do find, I think Mishima Dojo could have been more fun if it went for a King of Fighters Stadium approach to its use of the walls, but it is what it is. So it's still fun, it's still interesting. It's not my favorite stage. I will probably still pick it though, if only because I just tend to find myself gravitating toward the new DLC stages. But that is what it is. There was one new amiibo figure officially announced in the Kazuya presentation. Of course, we have now finished all of the Fighters Pass 1 amiibo figures. You can't see them, but Joker and I was going to say Hazuya. Kazuya doesn't have one yet. Hero are hanging up there, as well as Terry. I don't think Terry's quite in frame, but behind me, somewhere along this wall, that my audio listeners also can't see, but somewhere behind me on the wall there is also Banjo and Kazooie and Byleth, so all of Fighters Pass 1 is complete. So now we have to start moving on to amiibo figures for Fighters Pass Volume 2, and of course the first one to be created is going to be Min Min, and I find it exciting, not only because I like Min Min as a character and I like ARMS, but that means that Min Min is going to be the only ARMS character that actually has an amiibo figure, which I find fascinating, because I honestly, when ARMS was announced in 2017, I thought it was going to be a shoo-in sort of game to have amiibo support in a similar way to what Smash itself has. So, it better late than never on having an ARMS character getting an amiibo figure, but I don't know, I'm just still kind of surprised that ARMS never ended up getting any amiibo functionality, and I mean, I guess that's really all that's there. I am ready to continue my Smash collection, and hopefully, I'm about, less than 20 away on the Smash series, I think, so if I can keep getting these new ones that come out, I will continue to stay on track to just have to eventually go back for all of the, just have to go back for all the ones that I'm missing, is really all I'm trying to say. And the last thing I want to talk about here, of course, in the Smash presentation are the Mii fighter costumes. This time it was again kind of sad, similar to, man, I'm just struggling to remember. There was another time where there was actually not that many costumes. I've kind of gotten used to there being at least 6 to 8, and this time there were only 4. They include all characters that have been long requested for the Smash team to add to Ultimate, but ultimately ended up not being able to be fit into the game for one reason or another, that Sakurai was just like, I still want to represent these characters, because I guess the whole idea of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is really trying to fulfill a lot of dreams for folks. You can just kind of see that already with Simon and Richter and King K. Rool just being characters in the game in the first place. The characters that got represented now are Lloyd from Tales of Symphonia, which, I mean, is significant, but I just want to remind everyone, this is actually another returning DLC costume from Smash for Wii U and 3DS, so it really isn't new, because Lloyd's costume could have just returned, especially with Namco Bandai already working on developing Smash Bros. Ultimate. I don't get it. But whatever, it's still neat that he's there. We also have... Okay, so first, Lloyd is a sword fighter, which makes sense with Tales of Symphonia being an RPG. Another sword fighter we have is Dante from the Devil May Cry series. So, of course, you had to see many jokes come out when that was seen. Of course, there's sadness that Dante is not the character, and that kind of quashes all of those leaks that people have just been uncritically reporting on about Dante's gonna be the next Smash character, and then it never happens, and now he's DLC Mii fighter costume. Again, kind of getting back to what I just talked about with the Game Boy Advance screenshot in my intro here, folks. but now he is another sword fighter costume. We also have a sword fighter costume for the Dragonborn from the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, which is just interesting. That's another. We already had the Vault Boy from Fallout, so Bethesda already had some representation. Now we have Bethesda coming back again with the Dragonborn. And then finally, we have a costume for Shantae from, well, Shantae. And actually, Shantae, so she's the only brawler character in this group of costumes, and she comes with a special music track, like some of the other costumes, like Sans did and Cuphead did. And you know, it's funny, I remember all these segments before where I was like, man, I keep covering these Mii Fighter costumes, or all the Sword Fighter costumes. It just seems like they're doing all sorts of other ones. And now I kind of have to flip that before we get to this final pack here and start asking, where the heck are all the Mii Gunner costumes? There wasn't a single one in this one. I mean, it's been a while since Pyra and Mithra's reveal. I don't remember if there were any Gunner costumes there. There very well might have been. But I just, now it seems like with this one, you have 75% of the costumes being Sword Fighter. It's like, man, now maybe the Sword Fighter actually is getting a few more extra costumes. So I don't assume Sakurai was listening to me, but hey, good on you, Sakurai, for listening to feedback, even if my feedback didn't actually reach you. So, that covers what I had to say on Kazuya. So I think we can move on to our next topic, which is, what should the Wii U legacy be? And this is actually a topic that I've thought about quite a bit, especially with the continued rise in Wii U ports to Nintendo Switch. And before I get going on any of my arguments here for my position, I do want to make it clear that my issue is not that there are ports, or even that there's just so many on its face, or for sure I should just say that it's not my motivating reason, because, you know, if the Wii U had been a massive success and Nintendo still made these ports, I would genuinely feel pretty differently about it. And of course, you know, having the original Wii U games certainly makes me feel differently about the fact that there are all of these Wii U ports compared to someone who'd never had the console. If you want to see a great example of that, see how I, after it was announced and thought it was interesting, ended up completely souring on Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury when I found out that the online multiplayer was only with friends. It's certainly I certainly hold apparently super unorthodox opinion on it, since I've seen all of these posts and polls about, like, Super Mario 3D World's the best Nintendo game of the year already, and of course it got glowing reviews because it's still Super Mario 3D World, which regardless is a fantastic game. So I want to make my stake clear here that even if I obviously cannot take away my bias, that, you know, inevitably, just by virtue of these coming out, I'm going to have a little bit of salt that I spent money on all of these games earlier. That is not my motivating reason for being concerned about all of these ports. And I'm not just concerned because Nintendo's being lazy by porting Wii U games over to Switch, okay? That is not my issue. My issue is a little bit bigger, and I guess it's really kind of abstract, so whether or not it is a real issue remains to be seen, but it's still something that just kind of lingers in the back of my mind for a few reasons. But before I get into my arguments, I just want to cover, like, how many Wii U games have received ports, in fact. Now, this probably isn't a comprehensive list. I was just thinking about, like, what all games are in my own collection, for starters, that have ports. There's probably a good handful that I'm still missing here. But for sure, as far as ones I own, now on Switch you have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is a port of Mario Kart 8 with a couple of extra additions. That actually is a game that I own and paid full price for. But I mean, I love Mario Kart 8. and it was actually the first and only Wii U port at the time, so I was okay with getting it, including for full price. There's Pokken Tournament DX. That was another one. I think I actually got that one for Christmas, so I actually didn't pay any money into it. But that at least came with all the characters from the arcade version of Pokken that did not get added to the Wii U version later on. And I had hardly played the Wii U version of Pokken Tournament, and I even already had the Amiibo card version of it, so I got like the special thing that I would have wanted from it. So there wasn't a ton of hard feelings there. And again, I think that was only like the second Wii U port, so Nintendo still had some leniency with me. I actually do own New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe on Switch, but I don't like the only reason I bought that one and the pattern that I've gone with since then on any Wii U ports is if I'm gonna get it, I'm either gonna get it at a local store and all the money is gonna go to that store and I want to support it, or I am getting it at like a decent enough discount to where I feel like, you know, I still want to complete this collection of games that I'm gonna own here, but I haven't effectively rewarded Nintendo for kind of making this this simple port. And New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, I think I got for like, it was either $35 or $40, which is still a little more than I would have wanted to spend, but considering the game was going for full price everywhere, I don't think I would have found a better price anytime soon. And then I actually recently got Pikmin 3 Deluxe. Are you noticing kind of a pattern yet? These are all just the same game, but deluxe, actually. And I got that one for half off, $30, when the game is still going for $60. Actually, really, I mean, this is within a year of the game's launch, so getting it for $30 is about as good of a deal as you're going to get for like the next decade, I would predict. Maybe the next 5 years, I don't know. Kind of depends on when Switch game prices go down for a while, and even then, Nintendo games almost never lose their value, so that one, it's always hard to judge, even when you're talking about a somewhat more obscure series with Pikmin. And that was just one of the ones that happened to be on sale. Honestly, that Pikmin 3 Deluxe is probably one of the ports that I am the least happy with, because Pikmin 3 on Wii U is like one of the few games that sticks out as being enhanced because of the Wii remote. Not so much because of the gamepad in the Wii U version, although I actually like it more than some other folks do. But the team who worked on Pikmin 3 Deluxe, I'm not sure if it was Grezzo or what team it was, but they could not capture the same control, specifically because there is no sensor bar. And granted, I am playing with the gyro-only controls, so maybe if I played with the gyro plus pointer, I've heard that's what people like, the gyro plus, I think it says pointer, but it's essentially the gyro plus stick. Maybe I would like that a little more, so I might be being a little unfair to Pikmin 3 Deluxe. Some folks say the Switch version controls better. I think the opposite. And I cited this same reason when I did my review of Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics, another game that I actually do quite love, and it's because the pointer just gets way out of sync too often, because there's nothing for you to actually point at, like you have the sensor bar on the Wii and Wii U. But as far as a bunch of other games, I already just listed 4, which would be plenty, in my opinion, at least for individual games. If these were, again, I guess also, if these were collections, then maybe that I would feel a little different. New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is kind of a collection, but I digress. There's also Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which is just a straight-up port other than the new Super Mario Odyssey levels. And of course, since you don't have the touchscreen of the Wii U gamepad, there's this just pointer floating around on screen that you have to control with gyro. I've actually played the demo for it, but I don't own the full game. I've found it's a good bit more awkward than just having the touchscreen available to you. Actually, even then still, you had to control the camera in the Wii U version only using the gamepad tilt. You could still rotate the level with the right stick, but I did not like that. I wish I could have just used the control stick and left it at that, but whatever, I don't need to review Captain Toad Treasure Tracker right now. of course, I just talked about how upset I am about Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, because, man, that's a game that I just so much wanted to be like, this is going to have a sufficiently new reason for me to double dip on it. But the fact that online play is only for friends, and I don't know anyone who would also own Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, let alone know people who, if I bought it, would pick up a copy just to play with me online, that isn't really worth it. And the 3-hour adventure for 100% that is Bowser's Fury is not enough for me to spend $60 on it. And I know people have been like, Bowser's Fury is the way that 3D Mario should be in the future, because it's like a perfect fusion of the like Super Mario 64 and Odyssey style and the 2D style of Mario games. Like, that could be true. I have not played it, obviously, but still, is that experience worth $60? And even still, is it fair to compare Bowser's Fury to Super Mario 64, Sunshine, Galaxy, or Odyssey, when those are full, complete games? And this is just a single, I mean, effectively, it's the same size as just a regular level in Super Mario Odyssey. Maybe it's a little bigger, with just 100 cat shines, which, granted, you still paid full price for 120 stars in Super Mario 64 on the N64 back in the day, and 120 shines in Super Mario Sunshine on the GameCube back in the day, and 120 stars in Galaxy, etc., etc. So, but those games also weren't just 3 hours long. Super Mario 64 alone is at least double the length. Of course, your mileage may vary depending on how quickly you beat the game. But I'm just kind of airing out my laundry on Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. I don't think that would be worth $60. But if other people think it is, that is their complete right to think that, and I will just respectfully disagree with them on it. There's also Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, which is actually the third version of Hyrule Warriors. I actually went ahead and bought Hyrule Warriors Legends on the 3DS. So unless the game really goes on sale, I have no interest in buying a third copy of Hyrule Warriors, especially because I actually completed the story mode in the 3DS version. I hardly touched the Wii U game, although what I played I actually really enjoyed, so credit, it is a good game, but I don't know if I really want to pick it up again. And then, for sure, the last of the first-party ports that I can think of is Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which, outside of the ability to play as Funky, is almost identical to the Wii U version. And then, of course, there's the third-party ports, but I don't really get upset about those, because third-party companies are just going to port games no matter what. There's your Lego City Undercovers, and, of course, the upcoming re-release of Fatal Frame Maiden of Black Water, now coming to Switch, as well as other platforms. So that one I'm actually a little bit less upset about, since we're at least sharing the wealth on Fatal Frame 5. And, actually, even depending on how fast and loose you want to be with the definition of a port, I could even see folks, if they want to be a little bit less generous, including Splatoon 2, Super Mario Maker 2, Mario Tennis Aces, and even Super Smash Bros. Ultimate as Wii U ports, because those games are really pretty similar to Splatoon on Wii U, Super Mario Maker on Wii U, Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, and of course Super Smash Bros. For Wii U. Although, I actually think the only one of those four that is even an open question, and I don't think it's really that much of an open question, I think the case is pretty closed on it, is Splatoon 2. That's the only one that I could maybe see an argument for people thinking of it as a glorified Wii U port of Splatoon. But for sure, Super Mario Maker 2, Mario Tennis Aces, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate are far different from their Wii U counterparts. And even then, I personally think Splatoon 2 is different enough, so I have no problem owning it. And then, of course, there's the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which came out on both consoles on the same day. So you could argue that one's kind of a toss-up, in that the game, in that Breath of the Wild, was originally meant to be a Wii U game, and because the Switch was already basically done, it was just kind of plopped on Switch and ended up becoming a big Switch game instead of a big Wii U game, just because the game either wasn't ready or Nintendo was just like, okay, we need a killer app for Switch, and that game is going to be done just about the same time as the Switch is finished, or just we can let them keep working on it and keep refining things until the Switch is ready to launch. So, I would actually personally consider Breath of the Wild a Switch port, just because the way I envisioned the game was on Wii U, but I totally respect the argument that it's not. I think it's fair. I see it as a port, even though I don't see Splatoon 2 in that same sort of way in some of those other games. And that alone, I think I just gave a list of like what you could argue are at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So for sure, 8 definite done deal ports, plus the third party ones that I just listed. Those 2 alone make the list 10, plus another. I mean, you could argue, again, depending on how fast and loose you want to be with the definitions, that there's like 8 to 13 Wii U games that are just on Switch. And that's, this is a console with hundreds, thousands of games potentially. I don't know the exact count off the top of my head, but 13 is no small chunk to just be ports. And again, none of these, other than maybe New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, could be collections, as that has New Super Mario Bros. U and New Super Luigi U in it. And that's a lot of games for one console to lose to the sands of time, to just say that, oh, there's the Switch version. I mean, there is the Wii U version, but the Switch version was really the successful one, so that's the one that matters. And I would say most folks really aren't concerned about this phenomenon, but I actually really am, for a couple of reasons. Of course, there's the basic game preservation stance that you can think of. Just because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is better on the Wii U, and I would contend that it's significantly better, if only because it is portable, just because it's a better version of that Wii U game, doesn't mean that vanilla Mario Kart 8 should be tossed aside, right? I compare it to, like, I bought the NES Dragon Quest games on Switch, and yeah, I probably wouldn't have wanted to play them any other way, but that doesn't mean the original NES version or the SNES versions of that game or the Game Boy Color versions should just be automatically worthless because now the Switch version is out and it improves on, those versions improve on the game balance in various ways. They're still worthwhile and people are still going to want to play them, and even still, there are probably very well cases where people will argue that they're the better version of the game. I don't think it's going to be common, but I think you could see people making the argument that vanilla Mario Kart 8 is better for reasons X, Y, and Z, although I guess that probably isn't that great of an example. Here's a better example. I am someone who would contend that vanilla Wii U Pikmin 3 is better than Pikmin 3 Deluxe because of the controls. And, we should keep Pikmin 3 as a separate and equally important game, even though the Deluxe version exists, because it has the superior controls. And some people are going to prefer it, like me. So, I do have a little bit of an extra thought to share on that later, but I just want to put a pin in it for now as something we're definitely going to come back to. Of course, there's the consumer angle to consider, because, of course, it is very nice to see these games get a second lease on life. If there's anything that I can't say about the fact that there's all these Wii U ports, is that it's bad for consumers, because, you're essentially taking a game that could have just gone into obscurity like Hyrule Warriors and bringing it to a new, much larger audience to potentially see it become successful. And folks who never had the opportunity to play the Wii U version now get the chance. Although, of course, like I just said, I think that it is an open question whether some of these versions are really better. Again, I keep bringing up Pikmin 3 Deluxe. I wouldn't call that one better than the original, as much as it's nice that there's new content. And, I'm just glad that folks have more of another opportunity to play it. But whether or not the sacrifices that were made to it to bring it to Switch were worth it is an open question. And even then, you could argue that are people getting like the real experience playing New Super Mario Brothers U without the opportunity to try out the gamepad mode or the I can't think of what it's called. Was it just the boost mode on the Wii U gamepad version? Granted, it wasn't something that a lot of people used, but that mode is one of the ways that New Super Mario Bros. U was originally intended to be played. Similarly, you could Captain Toad's another great example. Without the gamepad, are you really getting the true experience of what Captain Toad Treasure Tracker was supposed to be like? I don't know. So I think it's a little bit more of an open question on the consumer angle. And of course, then there's all like the 13 million Wii U owners across the globe, like myself, who are now basically being told, well, you can buy the game again on this other console. Is that fair? I don't really want to stake out a position either way on those, but I do think that they're genuinely important questions to consider. But for me, the most important issue, and this kind of gets to that abstract thing and that pin that I just put aside, is in this idea of the Wii U's legacy. Okay, what do I mean when I say why we should be concerned about the Wii U's legacy? I don't really care what the Wii U represents to regular people, honestly. If they want to see like, oh, that was Nintendo's failed console like the Virtual Boy, that's fine. If they just want to be like, yeah, the Wii U, that was like a weird moment in Nintendo's history where they didn't do all that great, that's fine too, But what I'm concerned about, as far as the Wii U is concerned, is how Nintendo views it, okay? And what I'm concerned about is just by porting all of these games and, suddenly seeing Super Mario 3D World become a giant success, might make Nintendo grow a similar bravado to what they did when the Wii sold so well, right? And of course, what did follow up the Wii? The Wii U, that they're trying to they're trying to pull all these games from. Like, I don't think it's good for them to think of New Super Mario Bros. U as a Switch game rather than a Wii U game because, it effectively erases the years 2012 through 2016, right? We need three strong competitors in the gaming console landscape, and they all need to provide something special. But I want Nintendo to have these Wii U games stay Wii U games, or at least still remember them as Wii U games as opposed to just Switch games, because they don't need to repeat the mistake of the Wii U. You see what I'm saying here? They don't need to do something that's so unique that it alienates people like the Wii U did, but of course I also don't want them to just release a bog standard box like Sony and Microsoft have been doing since, their original consoles. So that really is my ultimate concern, why I've brought up many times, I am upset that there's another Wii U port, because I genuinely think that, and this isn't about being a giant corporation and I want to see my giant corporation succeed the best, but I think, if I want to treat, or even just think about games as an art form, and if you don't want to see bad games or failed games come out again, and you want to see more good games come out and just more games in general come out in the future, I think it's good to keep what didn't work in your mind. That's very important, to have a growth mindset to say, okay, that didn't work, but I can't just erase that it didn't work and replace it with a new version that does work because I have a different piece of hardware that works. And that's just kind of what I see happening with all of these Switch ports. Hopefully I'm wrong. And that's the thing. If I am wrong, this is probably one of the things that I'd most love to be proven wrong on, to be kind of overly cautious here. Because I do want to see Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo all continue to succeed. Because they have all in various times reflected on where are places where our hardware failed. and what can we do to do better on it? Like, you saw that going from the PS3 to the PS4 for Sony. You saw that going from the Xbox One's announcement all the way up to the end of the Xbox One's life. You saw Microsoft do a huge shift because they realized that something wasn't working there. And you, of course, saw Nintendo do this going from Wii U to Switch and eschewing that, okay, we need to do something unique, but it can't be like so abstract and out there. And of course, the name needs to be a little more distinct, which is how the Switch does work. In my estimation, that it is distinct and that it does do something that is still unique, but, and I talked about this in my 9th generation console roundup, it does something that is inherently appealing to a lot of people, so I think they learned their lesson, but it's very easy for folks, especially giant companies, to fall back into their old habits, and I'm just afraid that seeing this, well, destroying a legacy, as the title of this episode is saying, could lead to bad things for the future. And, you know, in that sense, you have to appreciate the Wii U for being, I mean, not just because it had great games and was still like a genuinely pretty good console, but because it kind of forced Nintendo to wake up and realize they have to do something at least a little bit more traditional to keep succeeding. So, I can't imagine this is the only time that I'll talk about the Wii U's legacy. It comes down really to if there are more ports and if my fears come true or if they don't come true in the next few years when the successor to Switch is revealed. But I think that covers all I have to say today regarding the topic. It's kind of nice to get that one out there to the world because it is something that I have thought about for quite a long time and have wanted to talk about on this show, but I thought today would finally be the day. But let's move on to a little more general topic. Amazon UK is destroying their goods? So, despite being a political science student, I find it interesting that I have not really covered any sort of political stories on here, and I mean, I talked about that all the way back in episode 1. It's like, I don't really want to alienate any people yet with just being, like, super duper pro lefty here, even though I've talked about, obviously, the shows that I prefer here. But I think this particular story is just so out there that it's not really partisan, and it's kind of universally disgusting that I feel compelled to cover it. So I actually first heard about this Amazon UK story on Breaking Points. That's the new independent show by Crystal Ball and Sagar and Jetty. So first off, of course, I'll just be another person to congratulate them on getting off of the hill and taking this risk and going independent. But the coverage I'm going to bring to you here today comes from an article on ITV.com. I just don't know a ton about ITV because they're a British news source, not an American news source. But I would think they have pretty reputable news coverage as far as I have seen from them. So hopefully this isn't a secret far right-wing outlet or a secret, like, anarchist outlet that I'm getting this news from here. I would think that since they have a TV channel that they're pretty mainstream for better or for worse. So, but the long and short of what you need to know about this story is that there's an Amazon facility in the United Kingdom. It's specifically the Dumfriesline warehouse, or maybe it's the Dumfriesline, I don't know. They were caught thanks to some undercover footage destroying just all sorts of merchandise. And, we're not just talking about, like, oh, this lamp, the connections don't work and light bulbs won't light up in it, so we're gonna destroy it because it won't have any use. No, we're talking about not broken items, not damaged items. We're talking, and, we're not even talking about just, oh, we have to throw a couple of items away today because they don't work, or they got returned, or whatever. We're talking millions of unsold goods getting destroyed. And these include high-priced goods, your smart TVs, your laptops, all sorts of other pieces of technology, and your, of course, lower-priced goods, but still valuable goods like books are going destroyed. I mean, we talk, like, it's a pretty iconic saying that you don't want to burn books. I'm sure they're not burning the books, but they're still destroying the books. There's certainly someone out there who would want these new books on Amazon. And of course, since there are so many now, thanks to our global pandemic, many face masks are getting destroyed as well. And, ITV, I want to give them credit, they went ahead and conducted an anonymous interview with a former Amazon warehouse manager. It might have well been the manager from this warehouse. And what they learned from this manager is as many as 200,000 items have been destroyed in one day. And that includes, I already talked about those, like a smart TV is a high price item, but that even includes iPads and MacBooks for just, no apparent reason. It hasn't sold. We're going to destroy it. And, to make matters worse, half of these items they're still brand new and sealed. So they're perfectly good, usable items that could just be donated. And we'll put a pin in that. I'm going to talk about that. In fact, to quote the piece, quote, "In 1 week in April, a leaked document from inside the Dunfermline warehouse showed that more than 124,000 items were marked destroy. To repeat, that's just for 7 days. And in contrast, just 28,000 items in the same period were labeled as donate," end quotes. That is directly from the ITV piece here by a Mr. Oh goodness, I need to scroll all the way up here. I know his last name because I cited it in here. By Richard Pallett for ITV. And the reason that these products are just kind of getting chucked in the trash is because typically they're actually not just items that Amazon carries, like how Walmart would carry, Switch games, since I just talked about a bunch of those. These are usually the fulfilled by Amazon products. So if you've ever been on the website and you've seen an item as fulfilled by Amazon, what that means is that the profits go to a vendor, but they're using Amazon as like, hey, we probably wouldn't get a ton of sales on this if we made our own website, but if we sell it on Amazon, we'll make a ton of money. And so they just have to send items to the Amazon warehouse, and then Amazon fulfills and just does the back end work, sells it, gets it out to people. But the problem is, if vendors still don't see success on Amazon for one reason or another, then the more unsold items they have in these Amazon warehouses, the more that they get charged to continue housing them in the warehouses and try to sell them. So inevitably, since the cost just keeps rising if they don't have sales, they just tell the Amazon people to chuck the goods. And, granted, that saves these smaller businesses' bottom lines, which I am in support of, but it creates all these other problems that we're going to discuss soon. And then, of course, you saw Amazon come back and just be like, oh, yeah, we destroy these, but we recycle them. And, we're trying to get to, net zero emissions, so it's fine. So really all I did is they tried to excuse what they're doing by saying, but climate change, man, which granted, I don't want to downplay climate change, of course, that is important, but that's really not the issue here. So, they say that some of these items get donated, but I just, in that quote, talked about how clearly the proportion of destroyed items, like I just said, it was in April, there were 124,000 items destroyed in a week compared to just 28,000 donated. That proportion, that is not equal. And even then, donate should be the one that has 124,000 items, and destroy should have 28,000 items. It's not balanced, and even if it shouldn't be balanced, it's not off balance with the correct action. And then, of course, the response from the UK government is frustrating, and it reminded me of a response you might see here, because Boris Johnson just kind of blamed consumerist society rather than, Amazon. And then the UK business secretary basically wanted the investigation to continue, but brought up a similar defense. And he was like, but, Amazon tells me they're doing good climate change things, so it's fine, right? And I think everyone in this situation looks bad, except for the employees who just kind of have to do it against their will. So, and what are my issues with this? Of course, we have my preservationist side coming out again, and that, these are good products that somebody wants. So why would you destroy them? If I could go on Amazon right now, which I've tried buying fewer items from Amazon, and I actually don't find myself ordering that much from Amazon. I actually do find myself ordering or just purchasing things in store more often, which is probably for the better. If I go on there and find for a reasonable price, like I've been wanting to go, because I have the Pixel 4a, I've been wanting to get the Pixel Buds to go with it, because my old wireless headphones aren't working so good anymore. If I could go on there and find them, that'd be great. But, maybe warehouse people were told to destroy the boxes of them, so now I can't get them. And that's not good. That hurts consumers. And, of course, that, hurts the businesses as well that kind of trust Amazon to hold their goods there for them even if a business directs the Amazon warehouse folks to destroy them, it should not be the policy that this is done in such a way that your incentive is either if you can't sell it, destroy it, as opposed to donate it. And then, of course, my altruistic side says that, yeah, Amazon, don't destroy anything that isn't broken or damaged. Donate it. You should be donating way, 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 way more goods than apparently they do. And, it's like, just, you cannot tell me that there is not a children's hospital that would not have wanted a smart TV, or would not have wanted multiple smart TVs. That would not be like, oh gosh, golly gee, look at how great Amazon's Dumfr line warehouse is, donating all of these smart TVs to us and making stays for children in our children's hospital better. And you cannot tell me that the public, just in general, would not be like, oh gosh, I'm so happy that Amazon's donating all of these unsold face masks to us to help keep us safe. You know what I'm like? I feel like, I'm sure that if I presented this to people, corporate higher up people, that they might be upset with what I'm saying, but I feel like these are pretty reasonable takes here. I mean, I would hope that these are the same things that are being said on TV, but I guess I don't know. I don't even know if the story has really been brought up very much outside of international, or, well, I guess outside of British media. And then, Amazon and the government's climate defense, I just see that, to me, that's a complete red herring. And, of course, that's, first off, assuming that Amazon's even making true claims, that it's like, oh, yeah, we're trying to do these climate things, we're trying to do that. Because obviously zero emissions isn't a bad goal. That's actually a really good goal, especially when you are talking about a large corporation. Now, whether or not their timeline, I actually don't know what their timeline is, but if I've seen like these similar carbon neutral ads from FedEx, and their timeline is up to 2040 is when they want to be zero emissions, and we need that sooner. I would assume Amazon's goal is something similar to that, and again, that needs to be sooner than 2040. But that defense does not address the problem, which is these goods could either be sold, and then thus you need to kind of change the prices to try to get people to want to buy them, or maybe they need to change their practices to make people want to buy them, because of, we saw like the Union Drive in Alabama fail, because Amazon used union busting tactics, even though they are illegal. And even if they aren't going to do that, they could just donate them. There's so many places that would be willing to take these goods if Amazon just can't sell them, and they need to make space for more goods. And I think it's sad that the British government's response is, because they're basically asked, hey, are you going to regulate this? And they're like, no, let's just continue on the investigation. We trust Amazon. And it's just, this is prime ground for, this is a problem that we as the government can solve. And they don't want to seem to do a thing about it. And, even still, you have to think about the bigger picture, too. Like, if this is just one warehouse and there's, like, 24 more in the UK, how many other Amazon UK warehouses do this exact same practice? Is this, like, standard across the company? Is the Dumfriesline warehouse just this bad? Like, these are important journalistic questions. And not to mention, the UK is a small island. What is this like in American Amazon warehouses? I would imagine that there are far more Amazon warehouses in the US, and if this is standard practice in the UK, I have no doubt, and to the tune of millions of items, I have no doubt that millions of items just get destroyed in American Amazon warehouses too, for the exact same reason. And that is something that needs to get investigated into, like ASAP, because that, this is just like plain a shameful mess to see this whole thing happening, and that people aren't really addressing it in any sort of serious way here. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. I'm frustrated that this is happening, because this is pretty unacceptable corporate behavior in my eyes. But that's all I have to say about that. Ironically, I mean, Anchor is owned by Spotify, and who knows, Spotify may very well use Amazon Web Services. So I could very well be using an Amazon service right now to talk about this terrible thing that Amazon's doing. But I think it's important, and it's true, and people need to know about it. So hopefully things can improve in the future. But before we do that, I do have I have to move on to our last topic, and hopefully it'll be a little bit of a happier, less serious topic for us to end on. So I promised now that we would talk about Mario Golf Super Rush and my first impressions. It is a little bit different from a review. I don't think I'm prepared to review the game. I've only had it for 10 days, which granted, I guess could be enough time to think of a full-blown review, but I honestly have not had that much time to play it, even in these 10 days. Although I would not say I have barely played it, but I haven't played it enough to where I would be comfortable saying, yeah, I know everything about Mario Golf Super Rush, and I can objectively review it. So I just kind of want to give my impressions of all the things that I have played so far. We're going to talk about the modes. We're going to talk a little bit about Golf Adventure, just the character selection, the courses, the online experience. Just pretty general things that aren't like super big about the game. So let's just start with the modes there. What is standard golf like? Well, first off, it's pretty different from what Mario Golf has been like in the past, and not quite in the same way that like Mario Tennis Aces play experience was very different from classic Mario Tennis. Well, and even then, that's kind of up for debate, because you could just see Mario Tennis Aces gameplay as just the logical extension of the gameplay change that started with Mario Tennis Open on the 3DS. But standard golf feels similar yet very different to classic Mario Golf. Like, the way the classic Mario Golf worked was it was the simple 3-click system. Click the button to start your swing. Click it again for your power, and then click it again for accuracy. First off, there's no third click, which that was actually a pretty controversial thing I noticed for some folks that are really into golf games. I thought I would dislike it, but I haven't really missed it that much. I've just kind of accepted that Super Rush is just a different take on Mario Golf. Although, again, I don't think it's a different take in the same way that Mario Tennis Aces was a different take yet. And in some ways, I am disappointed by that. But it's still fun. And that's the thing I want to get across here. For standard golf being, I mean, it's still golf. Like, it's kind of hard to screw up golf, because golf itself is fun. But for the changes, as far as, like, I think the big one for me is, at least in Mario Golf Toadstool Tour and Advanced Tour and World Tour on the 3DS, Toadstool Tour GameCube, Advanced Tour GBA, and World Tour on the 3DS, I should say. The way that all the bars worked on those, or the power meters worked on those, I should say, is they actually labeled, this is how far you need to go for this shot. And they had a full line in the air that showed this is how far your ball will go. And interestingly, Camelot went and took out some of that information, and in some ways I find that good in that it feels a little more strategic, but I also just kind of wish I had that information at the same time. Like, I don't get why it had to be gone. Instead of being able to look where your shot's going to land and having a full line, you just kind of see the start of a shot line where it would go. And when you pull up the map, instead you just kind of see this ring of, if you shoot the ball, or if you hit the ball with complete power, this is how far it will go, with a little bit of a carry added. And in some ways I find that more useful, but again, not at the same time. And of course, not having an idea of how many yards a shot will carry makes it harder to judge, like, should I go full force? Should I not go full force? Should I go a little bit less? Backspin, topspin, all that sort of stuff. So, but for as much as I miss it, I actually have found that it hasn't really made a difference, which, for as much as I miss it, I actually think it's pretty commendable that for getting rid of these extra tools that should on paper help the player perform better, I still find myself performing generally similar, in some ways actually possibly better, than how I performed in playing Mario Golf, Toadstool Tour, and World Tour on the 3DS. So, mixed bag. I would err on preferring that those tools come back, and of course I would prefer that there is a third click. I still don't quite get why that had to go, and why accuracy is now just sort of random. But, I ultimately have not found myself really needing them, and that is pretty impressive. So, hats off, but hats on to Camelot for those changes. But, standard golf is standard golf. You play holes of golf, and that's what it is, and it's fun, and I like it. Now, speed golf is the mode that Nintendo and Camelot really advertised with this game. After all, it is Mario Golf Super Rush, so you would assume that there is some sort of mode that you rush around in, and Speed Golf is that mode. And it's an interesting take, because, like I said when this game was first revealed, Speed Golf actually was a mode in, for sure, Mario Golf Advanced Tour and Toadstool Tour, and I believe in World Tour as well. I don't know about the N64 game or the Game Boy Color games, but the way that those worked is it was just kind of playing standard golf, and you were timed. And that's not too different here. You are timed, of course, but you gain 30 seconds for every shot that you take, and the most interesting aspect is you actually have to run to your ball. Now, one of the things I didn't like so much at first is I actually felt that the characters, for it being speed golf, I thought they were too slow. But then I tried out more characters, and I realized, that's probably just because I was playing as the power characters, which are the slowest characters. So then you get into that sort of interesting risk versus reward idea of, well, do I want to play as a power character like King Babam and be able to hit shots very far, but run slow as molasses to the ball? Or does it behoove me to play as Toad, who may need to take more shots to get to the same location as King Babam, but I can get there way faster and save a lot more time? And I don't know, I actually found myself, other than the next one I'm going to talk about here, I found myself switching between standard golf and speed golf pretty frequently, so I found them both pretty equally fun. And I don't know, I'm not, like, I like Mario Golf more because I like golf more than I like tennis, but Mario Tennis Aces, and granted, actually that's something I should address here, the way I'm envisioning Mario Tennis Aces in my mind is in my July 2021 brain, so, I can't really make a fair comparison here, but I feel like Mario Tennis Aces now feels like a true evolution on the classic Mario Tennis formula, but Mario Golf Super Rush doesn't quite feel like an evolution on what Mario Golf should be. And, well, certainly these are fun, I don't know if they accomplished that, so it's just interesting how something can be fun but not like revolutionary. It's kind of like I guess in that sense I can feel solace in that it still gives people a reason to play Mario Golf Toadstool Tour and still play Mario Golf World Tour because they still have their utility in providing something different from Super Rush. But I kind of digress there. Battle Golf is the third mode, and this to me is kind of what I would call Aces mode because Battle Golf is clearly going for that same aesthetic and vibe that Mario Tennis Aces provided. I'm not exactly sure how to describe it, but Aces was all about like neon and just like big lights, and I envision when I think of Mario Tennis Aces, I think of the Marina Stadium at night and the courts that are all lined up, and it looks super like neat and futuristic. And Battle Golf is definitely trying to go for that idea. And similar to how Mario Tennis Aces was described as playing kind of like a fighting game, and that you have to counter all these shots, I feel like Battle Golf kind of tries to go for that idea, but it doesn't quite pull it off. And it's kind of sad because I think it could. I think so there are two Battle Golf courses in air quotes. But the first one I think is kind of sad in that it's just kind of like the two ends raise uphill and then the area in the middle is flat, but you can just kind of traverse anywhere and you don't have to do any special sort of navigation. Whereas the second course, which is called the technical course, even though I would think it actually envisions a lot more strategy, despite the fact that the first course is called the strategic course. Actually, I guess it's not irony, because as Bender would say, it is not the use of words expressing something other than their literal intention. It's just kind of I don't know, I'm sure there's a word for it. But I find the technical course to be far more interesting because you do have to navigate. You can't just navigate anywhere in the technical course. There are special ramps you have to go up, and there are more chain chomps and more thwomps and womps and enemies on the technical course than there are in the strategic course. But I suppose I should clarify, well, what do you do in Battle Golf? So yourself and 3 other opponents have to be the first person to claim 3 holes. So there are like 8 holes laid out in both courses, and you want to get 3 holes before anyone else does, because then no one else can claim 3. And I find it really fun, but it's not the mode I'm going to gravitate to first. Because it's kind of a unique take on golf in that you're all vying to like, I need to get to that hole first. And so it's taking speed golf and putting it in this small little area. And I don't know, I'm not exactly entirely sure how to describe what makes it fun, but I actually find it really frenetic and fun it almost reaches what Mario Tennis Aces did in that it reminds me of it in that Mario Tennis Aces is pretty frenetic and fast and stylish, like Battle Golf is. But it doesn't quite hit all the way there. But those are all of the regular golf modes, and I don't know if that's enough to carry a full $60 game. And that's something that a lot of people have brought up, is like, is this enough modes? Is this a finished game? And I am the person who famously said on this show that I think Animal Crossing New Horizons, widely considered to be one of 2020's best games, is an unfinished game. And I actually am going to go out there and say I don't think Mario Golf Super Rush is unfinished, but it would very much benefit from more modes. And it is certainly disappointing that some past modes aren't in the game, and I hope that Camelot goes back around to add more of these modes. But the reason I feel confident in saying Animal Crossing New Horizons is unfinished, but not saying Mario Golf Super Rush is that Animal Crossing took away, and in my opinion, found no, not like reasonable, but like sufficient replacement for staple Animal Crossing mechanics, like collecting furniture sets. And the replacement is supposed to be crafting furniture, but I don't think that is a sufficient replacement because it does not give the same feeling that, oh man, I need that one last furniture item to have a complete room that all has the same furniture set in it. I don't get that same feeling from it. Whereas from Mario Golf Super Rush, I can still at least feel like I'm playing Mario Golf, but it just feels like it's light on content. And in that sense, it just needs more modes. It should have club slots where you get 3 random clubs on a slot machine. It should have, I don't know if this is a stand, it should have, here's one. It should have ring shot holes. It should have the go-go gates. I think that was only in Mario Golf Advance Tour, but that was fun. It was similar to the ring shot, of course. Actually, that might have been their replacement for ring shot in that game. I don't remember if it was in it. It's been a while since I played Advance Tour. But the point is, it should have those, and it is disappointing that they're not there. I'm still happy with what I have, but it should still be a priority to bring more modes into the game. And in that sense, yeah, it's kind of questionable whether the game is worth $60. I feel like I've gotten a good amount of play out of it, although, of course, if I could speak, I want to continue playing more, but I can understand why people would be disappointed. And of course, the other big mode is the Golf Adventure. And there's one thing I want to get out of the way. This is something that Ian said on the CU podcast recently, but is not true. But I don't blame him for not knowing this because Mario Golf Super Rush does not make this clear. And in fact, in some ways, it kind of leads you to think you have to do this. You do not have to unlock all of the courses by completing the Golf Adventure mode. The game makes it seem that way, but that is not the case. To obtain all the courses, you need to complete 18 holes on each course, except for the rookie course. So if you complete 18 holes on the Bonnie Greens, I think it's called the Bonnie Greens, but it's Bonnie something, and complete 18 holes on Ridge Rock Lake, and 18 holes on the Balmy Dunes, you will unlock the proceeding course. But again, it doesn't tell you that the Mario Golf Super Rush doesn't tell you that anywhere. So people are led to think that you have to play the Golf Adventure to unlock all of the courses, and that's just sad because, I mean, it's great to see Mii characters coming back, like how they did in Miitopia, but Golf Adventure is so generic and boring. And that's really, really a shame, because I found the story mode in Mario Tennis Aces to actually be, I mean, it wasn't, like, amazing. It was certainly no replacement for the RPGs that were in the handheld Mario Golfs and Mario tennis games on the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance. But that was certainly... the adventure mode in Aces was far better than the Golf Adventure. Because, in Golf Adventure, you actually played as Mario, and you played out a story, and you had characters that weren't just Mario enemies around you staffing the whole area. And of course, you actually did more RPG-y things than you didn't just play golf in tournaments. I mean, sure, that was a big part of the plot, but you could go around and do practices that were more interesting. And I don't know, just something about Golf Adventure comes off as super generic and boring. And frankly, now because I found out that I just have to beat 18 holes to get each course, I have all the courses. But I am not going back to Golf Adventure because it was so boring. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. I probably will go back to it at some point and beat like the bosses and all that jazz, but I don't have any reason to want to go back, especially because I'm stuck at Ridge Rock Lake with technically a 4th mode of golf that I consider to be absolutely horrible. It's called XC golf, or cross-country golf. And essentially it works the same way. It's almost like if you took battle golf and tried to apply it to the regular courses, which it just plain doesn't work. For sure for Ridge Rock Lake, and that's the course that it's introduced on. So I already described. So in battle golf, you hit your shot from the tee and you get to the hole. After you claim a hole in battle golf, you tee off from that green you just claimed to go to another hole. And so in cross-country golf / XC golf, you start on the first hole of Ridge Rock Lake, and you tee off and finish a hole. You have to beat it in a certain number of shots. And once you finish that hole, you can continue on to any other hole. So you tee off from the green going to another hole. So yeah, the idea is supposed to be that you need to find the ideal route to finish the course at this point I have to do all 9 holes in one go. And I just can't do it. I cannot figure out the proper route because the cliffs that I would want to go up are so high that it's hard to make my way there. Now, granted, I'm sure there is a route that I can go down that probably would take me through the high holes first and let me go down to the lower holes, but I just can't be bothered to work with it now that I have all the courses, because what I want to play is Mario Golf with the Mario characters, not Wii Sports Me Golf. So yeah, it's just kind of disappointing to see where that all went. And it's sad because I think XC Golf could be interesting, but it just leaves such a bad first impression. Another point, actually, kind of getting into the bit of how the golf adventure is boring, is oftentimes you're asked to do the same tasks 3 times. So you'll be asked to do hey, play a few practice holes on this course. Okay, you played a few practice holes, now do the qualifying round for the full tournament. Okay, you won the qualifying round, now go do the full tournament. And there's very little to do other than maybe going to the practice area and getting a handful of practice lessons, but even then, you're just doing the same sort of thing. So, there's not a lot of incentive to keep playing, in my eyes, and that is disappointing. Let's see. Let's go on to the character selection. So I like the character selection. I mean, you've got all your Mario mainstays, your Mario, Luigi, Peach, Donkey Kong, Toad, Rosalina, Wario, Waluigi, Yoshi. Did I mention Yoshi already? You got your standard Mario characters, and you have a few enemies. I think it's really interesting to see Chargin' Chuck and King Babam, because those are enemies that have never been playable before, especially a boss like King Babam. That's pretty fun. Pauline is back from Mario Odyssey and Super Mario Tennis Aces. Just Mario Tennis Aces. I was trying to combine Super Mario Odyssey and Mario Tennis Aces in that thought there. So I think the character selection's fine, but of course I do wish it was bigger. I think people just kind of naturally want more characters, and knowing from E3 that there will be additional updates, I genuinely kind of hope that Mario Golf Super Rush follows the Mario Tennis Aces model, and every month adds a character and adds some kind of new minigame mode, or just reinvents the minigame modes for the characters and adds tournaments. That's something that people mention that they're disappointed, is that there's no tournaments, especially online tournaments. To me, it's not a big deal. I find that Mario Golf seems to be going the Luigi's Mansion 3 and Dark Moon route of doing online, where you just have to go around and get into rooms with people, and I think that's fine, although I certainly see the utility of tournaments, and a lot of people said that the tournaments actually helped keep Mario Tennis Aces online scene alive, so, again, to me it's not a huge deal, but I see the utility in it, and I do think that tournament mode would be a good addition to add to Mario Golf Super Rush, so I guess I'm kind of in the middle compared to others. I'm not outraged and upset that it's not there, but I'm not no, it doesn't need it, it's fine. I just, I think it'd be nice. But it's not going to make or break my experience. As far as the courses, the game kind of provides, again, sort of a not super great first impression with the rookie course and Bonnie Greens, in that they are very much generic golf courses. There's very little Mario-y about them. And even then, outside of the special shots and the dashes, there's not a lot Mario-y to happen in those courses. But as you get to the later courses, like Ridge Rock Lake and the Balmy Dunes, you start seeing, oh hey, that's a Mario enemy in the course. That's like the sand blargs and the I can't think of what they're called, but they're like blue cold air in Super Mario 3D World and to push you off the stage and to try to get you in cold water in Super Mario Odyssey. I don't know what the enemies are called. But it's nice to see the game get a little more looking like Mario throughout the course of its playtime, and of course the Bowser. Oh, is it Bowser Highlands or the Bowser Badlands? I want to say it's the Bowser Highlands because I think the Badlands are the Toadstool Tour Bowser themed course. Again, it's just nice to see things get a little more Mario-y as the game goes on, but I do kind of wish in general, but this has been a flaw with all the Mario Golf games, to be honest. I kind of wish they went straight up. Let's just have super duper Mario-y courses for all the courses. So, courses are fine. I actually find, of all the courses, Balmy Dunes to be the hardest course. I don't know why. I've just had a lot of trouble on that desert course compared to all the other courses. But to be fair, I have only played the Bowser Highlands once, so that probably is the hardest course, but I've only played it once. Similarly, with the courses, a lot of them use like just generic golf hole designs, which is fine. But again, I'd like to see, I really wish, because the Bowser Highlands kind of does this, I would like to see more Mario-y holes. I think about Mario's star in Mario Golf on the Nintendo 64. That entire course is based around, having holes shaped like Mario characters, which is good and bad in that makes the holes super hard. But it at least feels like, oh yeah, I'm playing a Mario game, as opposed to, oh yeah, I'm just playing golf. But it's Mario who's doing the golf. And again, there is a hole that has it's either a lava lake or there's something about it that's shaped like the Bowser logo, but that's about it. And there's Mario enemies throughout the course, but that's not enough. I want a little bit more. That's all I'm saying. I want to see them go that little extra mile. And even then, I guess I can't be too fair. I'm not sure, because I did see a dash pad. I know New Donk City from Super Mario Odyssey is going to be added as a course in some way. But it looks to me, because I saw dash paneling, I think it's going to be a Battle Golf arena. But I'm not sure. So, if more courses are added to Mario Golf Super Rush, that'd be great. Especially more Mario-y courses. Even if it comes in the form of paid DLC, that would be fine by me. So, again, courses are fine. I feel like I've had a pretty good experience with the game in my first impressions, so I would probably lean more on the 8 out of 10 so far than the 7s that it's gotten. Although, again, I don't know when 7 out of 10 suddenly became it's mediocre score. I always thought that 6 was kind of the cutoff to where you can call a game mediocre, and 7 meant that a game really was, to me, 7 was the low bar for good and beyond, but I don't know if that's just me. But before I close out this, I should talk about my online experience. I haven't had too many issues. I have had a few rooms disband on me, which is frustrating. I have had it a few times where it's I'll play one round of a game and then the room disbands. Which, I can't blame people. I do that, where it's just I want to play one game and then I'll disband the room, or I'll leave quickly for whatever reason. But, that obviously isn't the best thing to have happen when you're playing online. And like I said, I haven't had one or two game drops so far, but it really hasn't been all that bad. I do like how you can filter so many options about the rooms when you search for them, and of course that means you can set up a ton of options when you set up a room. So really, it's really easy to find, if you just want to play 3 holes, you're going to find a few options. If you just want to play Battle Golf, you're going to find a Battle Golf room, although that's the least common one, of course. If you want to just play 6 holes of Speed Golf, but you can't play as Mii characters, and there's no Star Clubs allowed. Actually, I don't know if the Star and Superstar Clubs allowed or not allowed is not an option, actually, so maybe I shouldn't say that. But for sure, the Miis and the number of holes and the mode, you can find rooms like that, because people will set things up that way, and that's amazing. I love that about the game. And I haven't really had, I don't know if this is because the Camelot is using unique servers for this, or if it's because the type of connection, like I think it's called rollback netcode. I talked about that with the online in Smash a while back, and how it does not use rollback netcode for a smoother experience. I'm genuinely not sure what the online infrastructure is for Mario Golf Super Rush, but I've had a perfectly fine playing experience for one reason or another. I have had a little bit of lag. Like, honestly, the first match I did left a pretty bad first impression, because I had lag and some freezing and some lag on using the power bar, or the power meter, which is not good for a golf game, because you really do want to be exact. But outside of that first match, I've had very few issues, so in general, the online experience I found is pretty good, and I think that covers what I have to say about Mario Golf Super Rush. I'll probably come back to this topic as the game keeps getting updated, so stay tuned for more information as the game comes out. I'm probably going to just revisit this when all the updates are done, to be honest, since then I can do a more fair comparison between Super Rush and Aces, so... but yeah, that's all I have for Mario Golf, and really, that's all I have to say today for the whole show. We managed another approximately 2-hour episode. I seem to be doing pretty good at getting a similar amount of time. Who knows if that's going to make editing a pain in the rear end? I sure hope it doesn't. I know my Amazon segment's probably not going to have any B-roll or images, so that should at least help speed things along. But, that's all I have to say here today, folks. So please, if you can, do any sort of engagement that you have on whatever platform you prefer to listen or watch the Creative Outlet Podcast on. You could like the episode, heart it. If you're on, I know you can do that on Google Podcasts. You could, of course, I still want my voice messages. I have not checked to see if I have any voice messages. I very well could have some right now, and I'm just not aware of it. So if you want to send in one of those, that'll be awesome. Again, that's the one thing I want. If I can get a voice message, I would be a very happy young man. But either way, I look forward to seeing everyone once more in episode 11, and when it comes out in August. Unfortunately, I'm thinking that's probably going to be the last one of the summer, because I do have some things that are happening in August as well. Of course, my birthday is one of them as well, so we'll just have to see what happens. So thank you very much for listening in today, folks. It has been a pleasure.